Lesson 5.7 is on dividing polynomials. We're going to do this synthetically in this lesson. Dividing one polynomial by another will help us factor polynomials, so that's why it's important. Alright, so you want to write that down. Okay, we just said we're going to be doing this using synthetic division. And synthetic division simplifies the long division process for dividing by a linear expression x minus a. To use synthetic division, write the coefficients, including zeros, of the polynomial in standard form. Omit all variables and exponents. For the divisor, reverse the sign, use a. This allows you to add instead of subtract throughout the process. Okay, so I wanted to emphasize the last couple sentences of that paragraph. So by taking the opposite of the divisor, the value of a, this will allow us to add instead of subtract throughout the whole process. So if we look at problem number 3, it says use synthetic division to divide x cubed minus 14x squared plus 51x minus 54 by x plus 2. What is the quotient and the remainder? So the x plus 2, that's the divisor. All right? And what we're going to do in synthetic division is divide by a. Well, a is the opposite of the divisor. So if you see plus 2 there, our a is going to be negative 2. And we put negative 2 in this half a box. What we then do is write down the coefficients for every single term in the polynomial. And we include the zero. So if like a term is not listed, you would replace that term with 0. In this case, they're all listed. So we have a 1x cubed, we have a negative 14x squared, we have a 51x, and then a negative 54. Now how synthetic division works is you always bring down the first number. So it's 1. And that one, what you're going to do is you're going to multiply those two numbers together. So negative 2 times 1 gives us a negative 2. And then these numbers here, you're going to add. So negative 14 minus 2 is a negative 16. Okay, multiply negative 2 times negative 16, you get a positive 32. 51 and 32 gives us 83. So you're adding those together. Okay, negative 2 times 83, negative 2 times 83 gives us negative 166. A negative 54 minus 166 is going to give us a negative 220. And so at the very end, we will add in our variables. Our variable. This last number is the remainder. This number right here is your constant. This number right here is the coefficient in front of your x term. This number right here is coefficient in front of your x squared term. And so we can rewrite as, so what is the quotient and the remainder? Well, the quotient is x squared minus 16x, so coefficient and then the variable, plus 83, remainder negative 220. Okay, so this is your quotient that would be your remainder. For example problem number 4, it says the polynomial x cubed plus 7x squared minus 38x minus 240 expresses the volume in cubic inches of the shadow box shown. Part A, what are the dimensions of the box? Hint, the length is greater than the height or the depth. Alright, so we look at this box, and it is a rectangular prism, so we know that the volume for a rectangular prism is length times width times height. We know what the width is, so it gives us the width. The width equals x plus 5. So what we're going to do is we're going to find out what the length times the height is by dividing by the width. So our polynomial is x cubed, it's right here. And so we're going to divide that synthetically by negative 5. So we're going to write in, so remember in the box we put the opposite of the divisor. So the divisor is x plus 5. So I'm going to put in a negative 5 here. And then I'm going to put a 1. That's the coefficient in front of the x cubed. A 7, the coefficient in front of the x squared. A negative 38, the coefficient in front of the x. And then a negative 240. Draw my line. You bring down the 1, bring down the first number, so that's a 1, and then remember we multiply here. Negative 5 times 1 is a negative 5, and then we add 7 and negative 5. That's going to give us 2. Multiply negative 5 and 2, it's going to give us negative 10. Add negative 38 and negative 10 to get negative 48. Multiply negative 5 times negative 48, and you're going to get a positive 240. A negative 240 plus 240 is 0. So this is your remainder. That right there is your constant. This right here is your coefficient in front of your x term. This right here is the coefficient in front of your x squared term. So if we rewrite this with the variable, we have x squared plus 2x, so plus 2x, minus 48, and the remainder is 0, so I don't write anything next to it. Alright, so I have, so this polynomial here can be written as the product of two factors so far. This is factor 1, and then the other factor is x plus 5. Now, based on what we've learned in prior lessons, we can factor that. So we're going to look for factors of a times c that sum to b. So a times c, so factors of negative 48 that sum to 2. Alright, so the factors of 48 are 1 and 48, 2 and 24, 3 and 16, 4 and 12, 6 and 8. I want the factors of negative 48. So one of these has to be positive and one has to be negative. I'm going to make the 6 negative because when I add it to positive 8, I get that sum of 2. Alright, so remember what you do next is you take those numbers, negative 6, and you write it over whatever your a is. So it's 1. And then you write 8 over 1. The denominator 1 gets paired with an x. So you have x minus 6 times x plus 8, 1x plus 8 times x plus 5. Alright, so this is equal to the volume. We know, we were told that, and we were shown that the x plus 5 is the width. It says in part A in the hint that the length is greater than the height. So x plus 8 is greater than x minus 6. So x plus 8 is going to be the length. And then x minus 6 is the height. Okay, now we want to find what the dimensions are. So that is it right there. So volume equals all of that. Okay, now in part B it says if the width of the box is 15 inches, what are the other two dimensions? So we know that the width equals x plus 5. It tells us the width is 15, so we're going to substitute that in for w. And now we're going to solve for x. So we're going to subtract 5 from both sides. So 10 equals x. I can now compute the other two dimensions. So height is equal to x minus 6. So I'm going to plug 10 in for x. So height equals 10 minus 6. So height equals 4 inches. The length is equal to x plus 8. So length is equal to 10 plus 8. So the length equals 18 inches. So I have a height of 4 inches, a length of 18 inches, and a width, we were given this, of 15 inches.